By the end of my speech, the audience should have a clear understanding on why tigers should not be owned by private individuals. By now, you have either seen or heard of the new Netflix documentary, The Tiger King, which was based in Oklahoma, that is about a road zoo owned by Joe Exotic. This documentary brought light to the problem of tiger ownership in the United States and the lack of regulations to ensure safe and ethical treatment to these large exotic tigers. According to James Jeffrey, in an article entitled, "Does the U.S. Have a Pet Tiger Problem?" published in 2018, there are 7,000 tigers being held in zoos or by private owners, and there are only 3,890 left in the wild. Many of the tigers that are being held privately can be either bought or sold online very easily. I will be talking about the problems of private, unregulated ownership for both the tigers and the public. I hope to persuade you not to only care about this issue, but to take steps to end it. I will first start off by telling you what a tiger is like in the wild versus what it's like in captivity. According to Lee Elizabeth Pitsko, if a tiger isn't able to act like a regular tiger, meaning they're not able to swim, climb, stalk, then they usually end up as a house pet, and that can happen very easily, and they don't end up being what they're supposed to be, which is tigers. In the wild, tigers can cover an area up to over 20 square miles. Keeping a tiger in a cage can lead to physical, behavioral, and psychological disorders that include pacing. When they are being held in zoos or by private owners, they aren't always able to get what they need, and they're not always able to run around like they're supposed to. And that can usually lead to them acting out, and they can act out and display a pacing behavior, which a tiger in the wild would never do. Now that I've told you about the conditions many tigers are being held in captivity deal with, I will now tell you some ways that happens and what causes them. Laws are not consistent from state regulating tiger ownership. Some states only require the owner to own the amount of land that they're supposed to have, but that doesn't always mean that the tiger gets to roam on it, and that usually means that the tiger ends up in a 10 by 10 cage. The breeders get around the tiger breeding law by mixing tiger breeds together, and a big problem with this is that inbreeding happens, and that leads to genetic defects. Since it's not illegal to buy tigers, it is extremely easy to get a tiger. In some states, it's actually easier with less regulation to get a baby tiger than to get a puppy that's in their local pet store. While 35 states banned private big cat ownership, 4 states that are Alabama, Nevada, North Carolina, and Wisconsin have no restriction at all. Now that I have shared the causes and the problems of private tiger ownership, I will now talk about the liberation viewpoint of the tiger owners and its effect of federal regulations. Lawmakers receive pushback by voters who believe that the government should not be able to tell them what they can and cannot own, and since the animals cannot reason, they do not have the same rights as humans do. They think as long as they have the land and as long as they are feeding them, they are following all of the rules. And even if they are not treating them the best and they're treating them badly, law enforcement is spotty at best. The liberation viewpoint believes that they have the right to own anything they want and the government should not restrict that. Now that I have explained the problems with private ownership of tigers in the U.S. and the liberation viewpoint, I will now discuss on why you should care about this problem and what we can do to stop it. According to Luke Henderson, the Humane Society states from 1990 to 2012, there were 306 incidents involving privately owned big cats. That resulted in 24 deaths and 244 injuries. So what we can do is we can stop visiting roadside zoos that are not licensed by the American Zoological Association, and we should stop supporting breeding of small tigers, because usually what happens is when they're done being able to do playtime and they're done being able to do pictures with people, they usually kill them off right away. Write to your state and federal congressman or woman and tell them how you feel about it. And let them know, and support the AZA, which supervises the breeding of tigers here in national supported Save the Species program. So we talked about a lot, and we talked about the problems with private tiger ownership in the United States. We discussed the lack of federal regulations, and we talked about how the Liberation views things. We also talked about the problems that the tigers are having when they are being held in small cages and how they don't always get what they need and how that is slowly causing them to just become house pets. I hope I have persuaded you not to only care about this issue, but to take any steps you can to help bring all of this to an end. Thank you.